Good morning, folks. Great to see such a large turnout here. I know some of us who arrived early said, is there only coffee? And then we discovered there was food right on the other side of that wall. So hopefully everybody has got a chance to grab a bite. And as you know, we've got a program this morning that's chock full of great stuff. So on behalf of the Worcester Business Journal and our sponsors, welcome to the first Social Media and E-Marketing Summit here in Central Massachusetts. As most of you know, the Worcester Business Journal is primarily in the news business, but we're also in the events business. And the exciting program that will run throughout the morning has been put together by our star events manager, Chris Prosser. So while I often rush through the part where I'm supposed to thank our staff, or sometimes I skip it altogether, as my first item of business this morning, I want to give a special call out and thank you to Chris Prosser. And I think to her that might be interpreted as, oh, I'm embarrassing her, but thank you, Chris, so much. Where is Chris Prosser? Thank you for putting on this terrific event. I think one of the most important messages I can deliver as we get started, and by the way, I'm Peter Stanton, the publisher of the Worcester Business Journal. I always forget that no one is up here introducing me, so I have to introduce myself. As we get started, is that this program is aimed at both those that are comfortable and those who are uncomfortable with social media and their company's e-marketing strategy. And so you are not only allowed to ask what you might fear are stupid questions, you're actually encouraged to do so. We've assembled a fantastic group of experts, from our keynote speaker to our moderators and our panelists, and really want each one of you to walk out of here at 11:45 saying, I got more than my money's worth and my mind is full. So to accomplish that goal, I encourage you not only to engage fully in all the sessions that you attend, but take advantage of the downtime, talk to your neighbors, grab people afterwards. It's a treasure trove of expertise in this room, and it's your job to be a sponge and take in as much as you can. I want to give a special thanks to our presenting sponsors, Penta Communications, and our supporting sponsors, Davis Advertising and Commonwealth Creative Associates. We appreciate all of you stepping up to make this event happen. And so thank you to Andy Davis, and thank you to Bob Fields, who was the first to get behind this summit. And I'm also supposed to say that there's a hashtag for today's event for you tweeters in the room. And that is #WBJ Social. So if you knew what that meant, go for it. If you didn't, maybe you'll learn. Okay, so now I'm going to hand off the podium to our presenting sponsor, but of course I will introduce her first. Deborah Penta is the founder and CEO of Penta Communications, where she helps clients shape strategic marketing, advertising, and public relations programs. She's a regular featured speaker on marketing, advertising, and public relations at various national conferences, and she has appeared in a number of local and regional media, been a regular guest on radio and television, and has authored numerous articles and columns on marketing and leadership. She has developed hundreds of integrated strategies that have resulted in substantial positive growth for clients in a myriad of industries. Deborah is deeply involved in the community, serving on dozens of boards, and has been recognized widely both for her professional accomplishments and substantial volunteer efforts. Please welcome Deborah Penta.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to join Peter and his team at the Worcester Business Journal in welcoming all of you here today for the Social Media Summit. I just want to say that it's no surprise in talking with Mark earlier this morning that the brainchild of this event is Christina Davis. Christina, are you here? No? Christina, the social media diva. And I also want to offer thanks to Chris for putting this together and for all of the logistical support that she provided. Penta Communications is pleased to once again partner with the Worcester Business Journal in sponsoring today's conference. And I'm delighted that some members of the Penta team are here today, Rhonda Engelking and Michelle Barnett, who also look forward to welcoming you here this morning. We want to congratulate Peter and his team for pulling this conference together and for the great turnout today. Who would have ever thought that it would have turned out the first event, the inaugural event, so many people from the region coming together to hear more about social media. I've known Peter for a long time, and he's remained at the pulse of what businesses in the region need to know to stay relevant. From editorial excellence in the Worcester Business Journal and the newer and very well-received 495 publication, to their own emergence in the social media world and online news, to provocative events like today. And I would like you to all please join me in giving Peter and his team a round of applause for pulling this together today. Now, there are probably two groups of people in the room today. For some of you, I imagine that you have a social media strategy, or perhaps you're integrating some social media into your marketing mix, and you're seeing some results, whether marginal or significant. And you may be here today to just find a couple of answers on how to make your programs more effective, or to learn how to take them to the next level. And yet for others, and I've met some of you this morning, I would venture to guess that you're really on the brink of recognizing that it's time to embark on a social media program. And you're here today to learn more and to listen to our many experts who are very diversified from different industries and different areas of expertise. And you're looking forward to just really grasping a deeper understanding of what it is that you need to do. And so our hope, as Peter said, is that when you leave here at 11:30 and you drive back to your offices, that you have a shift in the way that you're thinking. You're thinking differently about customer relationships, about permission-based marketing, about branding, whether services or whether your products. And you're learning that metrics are very important in that social media provides tools to give you those metrics to measure ROI on every single thing that you do to help drive revenue to your organizations. We want you to gain knowledge of how you can grow your business. How can you grow your companies with a greater sense as to why it's time to make changes to engage your customers and strengthen your brand through the power of social media. Now, many people have said that social media is the biggest shift since the Industrial Revolution. I'm sure you've all heard that. We have seen significant ROI over the past few years that prove the power of customer engagement and brand awareness. And many statistics from client programs are proving results. As a small example, one client who just decided that he wanted to add a blog to his website now generates 150 leads a month. 5 years ago, we were spending thousands of dollars on industry niche advertising per month to generate 1/5 of those leads. We find that what's most impressive is that more companies are leveraging the power of social media for their businesses. And this paradigm shift from traditional advertising and marketing is shaking up our world so much that statistics say that 14% of consumers are trusting advertisements, whereas 78% are placing their trust in the recommendations of their friends through social media. But does this mean that you should drop everything else in the media mix? Absolutely not. That would be ludicrous. It means that you now have more tools, more specific tools to help you leverage your marketing. And when used in the right combination, that you'll reap greater results. And you'll learn about that in the panels today. So we are being forced to influence consumer and business-to-business branding through these non-traditional methods today to generate powerful social media strategies that will impact for clients. 25% of search results for the world's top 20 brands are coming from links to consumer-generated blogs. And today, over 34% of bloggers post opinions about products and brands. And there are now over 200 million blogs in existence, with 50% of those bloggers posting daily. Imagine how far a good consumer report is when someone has a good experience, how far that travels. Think about the impact that a bad customer experience has on your brand and how fast that travels. It took radio 38 years to reach 50 million listeners, but it only took the internet 4 years to reach the same number of users. And if you think that proves powerful, consider that it took Facebook less than a year to add over 200 million users. in only 9 months for iPad applications to downloads to reach 1 billion. So as we look ahead to the future, we realize that 25% of the global workforce will be connected with mobile technology, and in 2012, broadband access is expected to grow from 55% to 90%. I assure you that the social media revolution is not a fad. It is here to stay, but not without change. And as a matter of fact, the only thing constant in the world of social media is change. And so it's essential that we all adapt to the notion that change is good and rapid change is okay. And we need to move out of our comfort zones and be totally fine in the space of change in order to bring our companies to the next level. So today it is our hope, it's the hope of our fellow sponsors, Concreative, Davis Advertising, and the Worcester Business Journal, and all of you that have given your time, that when you walk away from the sessions today, you will drive back to your office with maybe 1, 2, or 3 compelling points that you can immediately integrate and make the changes that are necessary to drive your marketing forward. Our speakers and panelists are committed to giving you information that will be helpful and strategies to ensure your success. And with this, I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the morning.
Thank you, Deborah. So I'm sitting right next to our keynote speaker, and I pulled down this profile of him, and I'm proud of sort of taking these long-form things and chopping them down to a nice little intro. And he looks over my shoulder at what I wrote. He goes, skip that, skip that, skip that. Nobody likes to listen to long introductions. That stuff doesn't matter. So he edited himself down to the following. And for those editors in the room, I'm sure you know a good editor can't help himself from staying from the pen. So it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Paul Gillen, who is a veteran technology journalist and a thought leader in new media. He's the author of the award-winning book, The New Influencers, which chronicled the changes being driven by the new breed of bloggers and podcasters, and that was in 2007. His second book, Secrets of Social Media Marketing, has also earned wide acclaim, and his latest book, which he's co-authored with Eric Schwartzman, is called Social Marketing to the Business Customer. Paul was previously the founding editor of the online publisher TechTarget and the editor-in-chief of technology of the technology weekly Computer World. So, without further ado, please welcome our keynote speaker, Paul Gillen.
Thanks for that great and abbreviated introduction. I appreciate that. I'm sure many of you were sweating last night, the storms. I know I was on a flight from Chicago to Boston on Southwest Airlines, and as they were closing the door, I was talking to my wife, and she said that she was heading into the basement because the TV had just told people to take cover. So for the next 2.5 hours, I was total blackout, wondering what was happening here. Very glad to find out that the storms, sorry to hear about what happened to the poor people in Springfield, but glad that the storms didn't affect us and hopefully didn't affect any of you. Speaking of Southwest Airlines, I changed up my video at the last minute. I want to show you one.
I've had 5 flights today, and I just cannot do the regular boring announcement again, otherwise I'm going to put myself to sleep. So, you guys with me? All right. So give me a stomp, clap, clap. Come on, stomp, clap, clap. They're going to be there. There you go. Keep that going. This is Flight 372 on SWA. The flight attendants on board serving you today. Teresa in the middle, David in the back. My name is David, and I'm here to tell you that. Shortly after takeoff, first things first, there's soft drinks and coffee to quench your thirst. But if you want another kind of drink, then just holler. Alcoholic beverages will be $4. If a Monster energy drink is your plan, that'll be $3, and you get the whole plan. We won't take your cash, you gotta pay with plastic. If you have a coupon, then that's fantastic. We know you're ready to get to new places. Open up the bin, put away your suitcases. Carry on items, go under the seat in front of you, so none of you have things by your feet. If you have a seat on the road with the exit, we're going to talk to you, so you might as well accept it. You got to help us evacuate in case we meet you. If you don't want one of them, we're going to reseat you. Before we leave, our advice is put away your electronic devices. Fasten your seatbelt, then put your trays up, press the button and make the seat back raise up. Sit back, relax, have a good time. It's all time to go, so I'm done with the rhyme. Thank you for the fact that I wasn't ignored. This is Southwest Airlines. Welcome aboard.
That video appeared on YouTube about 6 months ago. It's racked up about, it's hard to tell because it's been copied so many times, but certainly in the hundreds of thousands of views. Now, a lot of companies, a lot of airline companies, particularly a few years ago, would have been upset by something like this. You know, the FAA is not known for its sense of humor. And, but if you know Southwest Airlines, they do things a little bit differently, and this kind of thing is very in keeping with their culture. So what did they do to this employee? They brought him to New York to do the rap at the annual shareholders meeting. That is the kind of change that we're seeing going on in the world today. You know, it's not about social media, it's about how you interact with your customers. And what Southwest understands, and other companies increasingly understand, is that your frontline employees are the most important contact that you have with customers today. It's not your marketing messages, it's not your top executives, it's the people who speak to customers every day, people like him. And that's really the change that's being wrought here. This slide is irrelevant because it relates to another video I was going to show you, and I changed it up this morning, but that was a great story too. Let's briefly on the media collapse, and it is a collapse, particularly in the B2B world. Newspaper advertising revenue is off 50% over the last 5 years. 50% over the last 5 years. Historically, one of the most stable industries on the planet is in a state of collapse. On your right, you see magazine circulation for some of the most iconic titles in the magazine world. Women's Day, Red Book, Playboy, Country Living, National Enquirer, all off over 60% over an 8-year period. The average age of a network evening news viewer is now 63. The columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times last year said, "Newspapers aren't dying, our readers are." Average age of a daily newspaper reader today is 57. People under 30 don't read newspapers. They just don't. They get their information other places. It's spread across the traditional media. It doesn't mean traditional media is irrelevant. It means that the traditional media's business model is collapsing. In fact, traditional media is as important as ever, in my view. But the traditional business model is collapsing. It's being replaced by something that's much more democratized. At the same time, new media we see. I think Deborah set this up perfectly with her remarks about the growth of Facebook and 200 million members in 1 year. Facebook, now the third largest country on the planet, with over 600 million members. YouTube, during the 5 minutes I've been speaking, there have been about 180 hours of video uploaded to YouTube. On the day that Osama bin Laden was killed, Twitter was logging 1,400 related tweets per second about Osama bin Laden. The average Facebook user spends 51 minutes per session. Those are numbers that any website operator would kill for. And it just goes on and on and on. User-generated content, social media has completely taken the world by storm because it has democratized the process that was traditionally very top-down and very rigid. This is what media has looked like for the last 200 years or so. There were a few people at the top of the pyramid who told the rest of us what we could know. About 50,000 people in the U.S., they were all the newspaper editors at the top newspapers, basically told us what we could know, because the broadcast pretty much parroted whatever they said. The media world today now looks a lot more like this. And it's very confusing because we have lots and lots of penguins. We're all penguins in this room, hashtagging away and tweeting away and all communicating with each other, and each of us has the possibility of reaching a very, very large audience, potentially, if we do things right. As Deborah mentioned, one client with a blog gets 150 leads a month because he's obviously doing some things right. But just starting a blog is not going to get you those kinds of results. You have to know how to exercise influence in a new world in which there is no central control. There is nobody telling us anymore what we can and can't know and who we should listen to. It's a very scary world because what we have is a gap of trust now. We don't know who to trust anymore. So that's an opportunity, though, because you can be the one they trust. Because today, you are the media. And there's been a complete influence inversion in the market as a result. Traditional influence exercised very much from the top down. New influence exercised very much from the bottom up. And domain experts can now have a forum through their different electronic channels to broadcast their expertise, to become well known to a group that very, very much want to influence, for little or no money. This is Bruce Schneier. Bruce Schneier is an expert in computer security. He is an avid blogger. He's a best-selling author of several books about computer security. But what really attracted me to Bruce was his blog, with 73,000 estimated monthly visitors, over 6,000 pages indexed on Google. He's been linked to from 13,000 different domains, which makes him basically sainthood. That's application for sainthood in Google's terms. He's got over 7,300 Twitter followers, and look at the number of citations he's had in mainstream media. Why is that? It's because when mainstream media, when reporters are looking for experts on security now, they type computer security or some derivation thereof into Google, and guess who pops up first? It's Bruce Schneier, so he gets lots and lots of calls from the media. So he's become a media star by building essentially his own little media empire. And it's just Bruce. It's just one guy. No help, no staff, not even any clerical help. It's just Bruce using the different channels available to him to speak to an audience he wants to reach. Customers in every industry today have more choice than ever before, right? We have lots and lots of choice, and we know lots and lots about the decisions that we're going to make. And this affects each and every one of us in the room because we are increasingly dealing with a customer base, a prospect base, who is enabled by lots of information. But when they make their first contact with us, they know more than they've ever known. And that changes the way we interact with them. Which hotel are you going to stay at? The #1 rated Hotel Commonwealth in Boston with 347 reviews on TripAdvisor and a 5-star rating, or the number 69 rated Courtyard Boston Downtown Tremont with reviews like felt like I was living in a military barracks. Why do you think there's so much turmoil in the hotel industry right now, in the hospitality industry right now? How do you solve a problem like this? If you're Courtyard, and if there are any Courtyard employees here, no ill will intended for Courtyard. This is just one example I'm using. If you are this particular Courtyard, what do you do about this problem? You've got over 250 people saying that they don't like you. How are you going to solve that? You're not going to solve it with marketing. You're not going to solve it with advertising. There's only really 2 ways to solve it. You can invest a lot of money in changing the way you do business, or you can hang out a big sign that says under new management. And that's one reason why we're seeing so much turmoil in that industry right now. A friend of mine runs a General Motors dealership. It says that 10 years ago, occasionally people would come in with those reports that they would pay for from Consumer Reports. So 5 years ago, they started coming in with these, everyone started coming in with information from Cars.com and AutoVital.com, and they knew what his costs were for the products that they wanted to buy. He said over the last 2 years, they started coming in with information about what other people have paid at his dealership for his cars. What does that do to his pricing leverage? The automotive industry, the dealer business, historically has been very leveraged by lack of information, by a customer that was basically ignorant and was educated by the dealer. But now, we educate ourselves with all of our friends. And my friend who runs the auto dealership says he just can't make money on new cars anymore. He makes all his money on used cars and services. It's transforming that industry. It's going to transform nearly every industry on the planet. The point is, if you're not helping these days, they are not listening because they don't have to listen. They have their pop-up blockers, and they have their iPads and their iPods and their TiVos and all their ways to screen out information that they don't need. The only way you can reach people and get a message to them now is to make them want to talk to you. And this is a different dynamic for a lot of marketers than what we've been taught, which is basically 4 Ps and drive the message again and again, repeat the message again and again. It doesn't work anymore. People simply tune it out. They don't want to hear messages anymore. Go into LinkedIn and look at some of the dead groups on LinkedIn. And you'll see people who say, I'm abandoning this group. It's been taken over by the marketers. Right? When the marketers come in, the customers leave. So that means the marketers have to change the way they market. They have to become customer service, customer support people. This is the obligatory bar chart. Every presentation has to have 1 bar chart. That's it. They're investing a lot in digital media. That's basically that point. So, what should be our social media strategy? Well, let me ask you this. Do you have a hammer strategy? You have a plumbing strategy. You have a landscaping strategy, a copier strategy, a stapler strategy. I would suggest you don't. And you shouldn't have a social media strategy either. You should know about social media. You should know how it can be used to help you. But it's just a tool. And a tool isn't any good unless you have a use for it. If you can count the number of customers that you have with a successful business on your fingers and toes, then I would suggest that your best social media tool is the golf course. A blog probably isn't going to do you any good. However, if there are customers, and by the way, for B2B companies in particular, something I often hear is, we know who all our customers are. I doubt it. Because I'm betting that there are potential customers in China and Indonesia and Korea who you don't know about because you have never had an opportunity to reach them. And you know what? With the internet, international comes for free. You get that as a bonus. So I would suggest you probably don't know who all your customers are. But the point, though, the main point is that social media tools are something to be applied selectively to solve a business problem. And your use of the tool should always start with the problem and work backwards. And what I'm going to give you is a bunch of examples of companies that I think are doing this really, really well. Now, I specialize in business to business. So I think all of these applications are business to business. There's some great consumer examples as well. Sorry, my watch stopped working this morning. I don't have a timer on me. But I'm going to give you some examples of companies that are doing this very well. Now, Deborah mentioned blogging. Blogging, for B2B companies, blogging is almost a necessity these days. And the reason is that B2B is very specific and keyword focused, and blogs absolutely rock on search engines. Google hearts blogs. And we can spend, I think you have an SEO session, a search engine optimization session today. Learn all you can about search engine optimization. It is a constantly changing field, changing under our feet as we speak. But the fact is that that 93% of buyers say that they go first to a search engine when they are researching a product or a topic that they don't know anything about. I mean, Google processes 38,000 search queries a second, every second. That changes everything. 10 years ago, we were a browsing culture. We're now a searching culture. So if you're not visible to a search engine, then there are all kinds of opportunities that you are not realizing. Now, blogs happen to do very well on search engines for reasons that we could spend an hour discussing. But the point is that thought leadership is one of their greatest attributes. This is a blog called In Heart Focus that's run by a guy named Stephen Russell. Stephen Russell is an enthusiast about the topic of image recognition and image processing. He has a company called 3VR that has very sophisticated software that analyzes security tapes and looks for anomalies in security tapes that might indicate a security problem. And 3VR has its own blog, but Stephen Russell has his blog too, called In Heart Focus, and he actually has a staff now, a small staff that works with him. And he describes himself in the bio section on the blog as editor-in-chief. Not founder of 3VR, but editor-in-chief. And that's because he treats his blog the same way you would a magazine. He's trying to build thought leadership. Stephen says that 4 out of 5 leads that come into 3VR today have read the blog. That's how people are finding him. He's establishing his expertise, and that is building trust, because it's all about trust. Employee Screen is one of more than 1,000 companies in the U.S. that does employee background checks. Employee background checking is a tricky business, a lot of legalities, nuances involved, and HR people have to be very cautious about how they go about it. So Employee Screen said, let's become the experts and let's set up an educational tool. So they created Employee Screen University. It's nothing fancy. If you look at it, if you really dissect it, it's really just a bunch of blog entries and videos and podcasts put together with a nice logo. But it's a university. This whole idea of education, of becoming a trusted source of information, is what makes it work. 3/4 of the leads that Employee Screen gets today come in through Employee Screen University. They stopped advertising. They don't have to advertise anymore. They've got plenty of leads because they build a trust relationship with the customers at the front end. One of my favorites is a company called Indium in upstate New York that makes solder flux. You know what solder flux is? If any of you have ever done any plumbing, it's that lead that you melt to put pipes together. Well, it turns out solder flux actually is used in industrial applications for the manufacture of printed circuit boards. And this company makes very high quality materials that are used for those applications. But basically, it's solder flux. And they came up with this idea 2 years ago of basically monopolizing the keywords that their customers care about. Those keywords are words like gallium arsenide. How many searches do you think there are on gallium arsenide every day? Not very many. But the people who are searching for it probably have a good reason for doing it. So they selected 73 keyword sets that they wanted to absolutely dominate. They set up a blog for each one. Then they recruited some of their engineers and some of their communication staff, and they started populating these blogs. Now they don't write 73 blog entries every day. They copy a bunch of stuff between them. The whole point is that the blog titles and the topics are optimized for the searches that people are using. There's only about 2,000 people in the world who buy this company's products. And this guy at the bottom here, Rick Short, his job is to find every one of them. Rick says that his job is to connect the engineers with the customers and get the hell out of the way. Because once the engineers start talking to the customers, the sale makes itself because of trust. This company had a 600% jump in leads in a 6-month period through this blogging program. The way they did it is when you go to one of these blog entries, which you find on search, you have the option of asking a question of the expert. And when you ask that question, you give an email address. And the email address becomes a lead. And they're the best leads they've ever had because the people who are coming to these to read about this kind of stuff, about IEEE certification, about obscure IEEE certifications, are there for a reason. They have a specific professional problem they want to fill. It's killing for them. Ask Patty is a company that does very interesting business. And I've profiled this woman in all 3 of my books because her job is just so, she just does such an amazing job. They train auto dealers in how to sell to women. Over half of cars sold in this country are the decisions primarily influenced by women. Yet auto dealers, if you've ever had any experience with them, you know, usually aren't very good at dealing with female customers. Well, they do certification and training. You get a little seal that you can put on your dealership that says you are Ask Patty certified, you're female friendly. They have done no paid marketing whatsoever. They do everything through their website, which is a collection of blogs and videos and contributed stuff that they get mostly for free from experts in the auto industry. And the reason they get it for free is because of the audience they have. Because when you publish on Ask Patty, you reach a huge audience through their syndication. They syndicate through a bunch of mother and woman-focused websites. They have multiple Facebook pages. They have LinkedIn accounts, YouTube channels, multiple Twitter accounts. They syndicate everywhere. And Jody DeVere estimates that they're getting about 10 million quarterly impressions, and that their blog content is amplified 100-fold on average by the number of syndication deals and alternative channels that they use. They don't do any advertising. She says her inbox is stuffed every day with leads and with requests. They've actually set up a social media consulting business for the automotive industry right now because they've had so much success at teaching auto companies how to do this. They do it all by themselves. They don't have a staff. They don't even have an agency. They do it all by themselves. This is Clickable. Clickable, 2 years ago, came up with an idea. They're in the internet advertising business. And they came up with an idea of how do you distinguish yourself in a market that's very, very crowded because there's lots of agencies out there. You do it by being helpful. So they designated 3 guys they call the gurus. And the head of the company said, go forth and be helpful. Go out there and just answer questions. Go to LinkedIn, go to Yahoo Answers, go to blogs, go to Facebook. Wherever people are asking questions about internet advertising, go and answer the questions. Don't drive them back to our website, and don't recommend our products unless you think they should use our products. In fact, about half of the recommendations these guys make are for competitors' products. But you know what happens is that the thing about social networks is that everything on a social network is tied to a profile, right? That's the difference. That's the big difference with social networks. You see somebody saying something, you click on their face, and you find out who that person is. People click on the face. They find out, oh, this person works for Google, works for Clickable. And then they want to know more about what Clickable is doing. And it's driven a 400% increase in business in the first year that they did this. Without, in fact, in the process, recommending competitors' products, it drove a 400% increase in business. Why? Because trust. Because recommending, giving people information that they can use creates trust that leads to business. That's the new equation. Today, you need to publish everywhere. These are just some of the channels that are available to you. If you're in vertical industries, there are many more. HR.com, 300,000 human resource professionals. FOBO for the restaurant industry. One of my favorites is Rigid Forum, which is a forum with 35,000 members who are all professional plumbers and woodworkers. These are places where if you get involved, you have a chance to influence the conversation, become a trusted source of information. There are groups on LinkedIn with over 100,000 members, active groups. There's a lot of discussion going on. There are questions on LinkedIn with over 700 answers. You get involved in those discussions, you start to build a profile, you start to build the trust that is the foundation of new business these days. I'm just going to close with an example of how one B2B company does it, I think, outstandingly well. I encountered Emerson process experts 5 years ago when I was writing my first book on this topic. And I said, the blogging was still fairly new at that time. I said, what is a company that does industrial process control doing with a blog? Right? There are only about 1 million blogs in existence at that time. And who cares about industrial process control? Well, what Jim Cahill understood long before a lot of B2B companies did is that he could own the search terms. He understood the supremacy of Google, and that he could own the search terms for process control, process manufacturing, and the different queries that people enter in Google when they're looking for this company's products. And he started, now Jim is not an engineer, he's a communications professional, he's a PR guy. He started roaming the halls and started talking to the engineers though, and he would interview them. He'd say, what's hot with you? What's hot with your customers? What are you doing these days? Tell me about your customer engagements. Tell me a good story. And then he would tell their stories. And he writes about all kinds of esoteric stuff. I can't even understand 80% of the stuff on this blog because it's so technical, but that doesn't matter because I'm not his customer. The people who are his customers, though, are finding them, and they're finding them in droves. What they've done is expand their franchise out through multiple channels. So when they publish diagrams and charts now, they publish them on Flickr as well as on their blog. They do some podcasts. They have some videos, customer videos, videos inside their plant. Their presentations are all on SlideShare. You get that for free. You give a presentation, what happens to it? It disappears into the vapor. Not anymore. You post it on SlideShare, and what do you know? 6 months later, 2,000 people have looked at it. They're repurposing every content they can through every channel they can. And as a result, they are killing on common Google search terms like IEC 61511 safety lifecycle. Now, who cares about that? Well, probably no one in this room, but the few people who do are going to find Emerson Process Control when they search for that in Google. In fact, Emerson Process Control dominates the search results for that term. That's all about trust. They have all of their Twitter accounts consolidated in one place. They encourage lots of their employees to tweet. And then they leverage that to magnify messages so that they can take one message and amplify it through dozens of employees who can retweet it. And the leads just keep coming in. Jim says that he has an email on his wall from a customer who found his blog and ultimately submitted an RFP for a 9-figure contract. Next to a sign that says, is there any value in blogging? This is a B2B company that has realized the true value. Final message, going back to Southwest Airlines. Marketing, there's this discipline called media training that we've had for a long time, where we train a few executives to interact with the media. Today, your job is to media train the entire company. And that's difficult, but it's also a great opportunity because every customer, every person who has public contact with your prospects or your customers is a potential A salesperson is a potential lead generator and also a potential problem. I'm about to cancel my credit card, my Citibank MasterCard, after over 20 years because of an experience I had with a customer service representative on the phone the other day. That kind of stuff happens all the time. Those one-time experiences with customers, those street-level experiences are a chance to delight or a chance to annoy. And you can use social media. The beauty of social media is that it's about people. It's about connecting small groups, person to person, few people to a few people. It's not about mass. It's about very small. It's about individualizing your company, humanizing your company, making your employees real, making them advocates for you. And so think of this as what you're going to hear through all these presentations today, is how can I empower all the people in my organization to become ambassadors and to spread the word about what we do and to generate the goodwill that engenders trust. Because today, if you don't have trust, you don't have nothing else. And I think I'm out of time right now. You do have to get started with your presentations, but I'm going to be here for another hour or so. I think we're going to be signing some books out back. And I thank you very much for this opportunity this morning.